Only 4 teams remain in the 2024 Champions League: Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, and PSG. Who will advance to the finals? The Champions League semi-finals is finally here. There are only 4 teams that remain, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for the first leg games. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for the 2 semi-final games between Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund against PSG. As always, if you guys agree or disagree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below giving me your score predictions, and I will be sure to reply to every single comment. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Starting off with the first game in the first leg of these semi-final fixtures, we have Bayern Munich against Real Madrid. Throughout history, these teams have come up against each other many times, and obviously they are 2 giants in this Champions League competition, with Real Madrid having won it the most times, 14, and Bayern Munich also winning it a handful of times. This has been a very strange season for both of these teams, because if you look at the start of the season for Real Madrid, they weren't performing that great, and they were actually sat in second place behind Girona. And Bayern Munich, on the other hand, are also currently sat in second place, and they have lost the Bundesliga title to Bayer Leverkusen, who have won it for the first time in their club's history. Obviously, in more recent months, Real Madrid have taken that first place spot in the La Liga, and they are looking like the current favorites to win the La Liga title once again. But in the Champions League, both of these teams have been absolutely incredible. From the group stages to the knockout stages, they have been winning almost every single game they play. If we go back to the group stages, both Bayern Munich and Real Madrid did finish first place in their group. And obviously, in the knockout stages, Real Madrid faced up against RB Leipzig and Manchester City, while Bayern Munich, on the other hand, faced up against Lazio and Arsenal. And to be fair, both of these teams did pretty convincingly advance to the semi-finals. Now, I say pretty convincingly because Real Madrid, obviously they have made it this far, which is absolutely incredible. But in both of their games, they actually weren't that convincing. Against RB Leipzig and against Manchester City, there were many points in these fixtures where they could have possibly been knocked out. If we go back to the round of 16 where Real Madrid were facing up against RB Leipzig, in the first leg, they were both very equal, and RB Leipzig actually scored a goal very early on, which was eventually disallowed. But in my opinion, if that goal stood, I think RB Leipzig actually could have beaten Real Madrid in that tie, and they possibly would have faced up against Manchester City. Now, obviously, we all know that Real Madrid have special powers, and even in games where they are not performing their best, they still have that ability to end up winning and obviously advancing to the next round. And they did do that similarly against Manchester City, where they weren't playing that amazing in the first leg. Yes, they did score 3 goals, but to be fair, 2 of those goals were very lucky goals. And even in the second leg, yes, they did score that goal very early on by Rodrigo, but for almost the whole 90 minutes, they were pretty much defending, as Manchester City had about 80% of the ball. Obviously, Real Madrid defended incredibly in that game against Manchester City, and when it went to penalties, they were the better team. But again, this shows us that Real Madrid haven't been that convincing so far in this Champions League. Bayern Munich, on the other hand, were much more convincing, as if we look at their round of 16 fixtures against Lazio, yes, they did surprisingly lose in the first leg fixture, where they ended up getting a red card. Lazio scored via a penalty, and Lazio did win that game 1-0. But in the second leg, when they were playing at home, they were much better. They ended up winning 3-0 to advance to the quarterfinals. And in the quarterfinals against Arsenal, in the first leg when they were playing in England, it did end in a 2-2 draw. But in the second leg when they were playing in Germany, yes, they didn't completely dominate that game. They didn't score a lot of goals, but they did end up scoring the 1 goal. They were clearly the better team, and now they are playing in the semi-finals against Real Madrid. In terms of who I think is going to win this game, I think it's going to be very tough, because obviously they are playing this game in Germany, and with that home advantage, I think Bayern Munich will definitely be the more confident team coming into this game. But obviously Real Madrid, from history and from what they've done previously in recent Champions League fixtures, I think they will also be pretty confident. But the one thing that's making me lean a little bit towards Bayern Munich is that they have already lost the Bundesliga title. Bayer Leverkusen have already won with still another 4 or 5 matches to go. And because of this, I do think Bayern Munich will have more energy and more confidence going into the Champions League, knowing that they already lost the Bundesliga title. They obviously do want to win some silverware this season, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for them to do that. But the one problem with Bayern Munich is that recently they have suffered a few serious injuries. We've seen players like Gnabry, Leroy Sané, Kingsley Coman, and even Musiala get injured in recent weeks. Now, obviously some of these players will be back for this fixture, but even if a few of them like Kingsley Coman or Leroy Sané are not back, this could be a possible detriment to Bayern Munich in this game. For that reason, I do think both teams will get on the score sheet in this game. I think it will be a high scoring game, and I do think it will end in a draw. I think Bayern Munich will probably be the better team, but Real Madrid, in typical Real Madrid fashion, even if they don't play particularly amazing, I do think they will still be able to score multiple goals, and for that reason, I think the score in this first leg fixture will end in a 2-2 draw. Moving on to the next Champions League semi-final game, we have Borussia Dortmund against PSG. This is a tie that we already saw this season in the Champions League, because if you guys remember, in the group of death, we saw PSG and Borussia Dortmund face up against each other twice. Now, if we look back to those group stage performances, in the first fixture where PSG were playing at home, they were clearly the better team. Borussia Dortmund didn't score a goal, PSG dominated that game, and they did win 2-0. But in the second game where they faced and Borussia Dortmund were playing at home, they looked much better. They did score a goal, they defended very well, and it did end in a 1-1 draw. But if you guys remember, at that time, around that November-December period, Borussia Dortmund weren't playing particularly well, even in the Bundesliga. They were getting a lot of draws, and I think that if they were playing how they are now, which is much better, they're scoring much more goals now, I do think they probably would have beaten PSG in that home fixture. Now, obviously, in this first leg fixture, Borussia Dortmund are playing at home, and I do think this is a big advantage for them over PSG. If we look at both of these teams' Champions League campaigns so far, obviously they were in the same group where Borussia Dortmund did finish first place in that group and PSG did finish in second place. But in the knockout stages, in the round of 16, Borussia Dortmund did do very well against PSV, and again similarly in the quarterfinals, yes, they did lose the first leg against Atletico Madrid when they were playing at home, because obviously we all know how difficult it is to play Atletico Madrid when they're playing at home. It is an incredible stadium, their fans are absolutely mental, and that was obviously going to be a tough fixture for Borussia Dortmund. But in the second leg, when Borussia Dortmund were playing at home, they did come back. They ended up scoring 4 goals, and they were clearly the better team over Atletico Madrid. PSG, on the other hand, in my opinion, had a bit more of a difficult road to this point. Obviously, in the round of 16, they did face against Real Sociedad, who, to be fair, didn't play particularly well, and PSG were clearly the dominant team. But then in their last fixtures, in the quarterfinals against Barcelona, it was very tough for PSG, and surprisingly, in the first leg, they ended up losing 3-2 at home. Obviously, in the second leg of that tie, Barcelona, especially in the defense, were very poor. They were very erratic. Obviously, Araujo got that red card in the first half, which obviously did not help them at all, and PSG obviously took advantage of that, as they did end up winning the game 4-1. Now both PSG and Borussia Dortmund meet in the semi-finals, and in my opinion, this is going to be a much closer fixture than what a lot of people think. I've heard so many people already write off Borussia Dortmund, saying that PSG are a strong team, much stronger than Borussia Dortmund, and they will make it to the finals. But in my opinion, I think in this home fixture for Borussia Dortmund, they could upset PSG. Obviously, this will be very tough for Borussia Dortmund, but in my opinion, I do think they can do it. And if we look at their recent form, they have been playing very good. Just a few weeks ago, we saw them beat Bayern Munich 2-0 in the Bundesliga. Obviously, just a couple weeks ago, we saw them beat Atletico Madrid 4-2. And last week, we saw them draw 1-1 against top of the Bundesliga, Bayer Leverkusen. With the home advantage, which we all know is very important for Borussia Dortmund. Their home fans are very loud. In my opinion, they are the most passionate fans in Europe. I think this provides a big advantage for them against PSG. Obviously, they did meet in the group stages where it didn't really go that well for Borussia Dortmund, but in my opinion, I think this is the time where Borussia Dortmund get their revenge on PSG and they beat them at home. Obviously, it's going to be very tough, and realistically, PSG could definitely win this game. If Mbappe plays good, then he could probably score 1, maybe even 2 goals. But in my opinion, I have been doubting Borussia Dortmund for the whole Champions League. I don't even know if I've predicted them to win one game so far, and they've made it all the way to the semifinals. So my Borussia Dortmund hate is finally going to stop, and I'm going to predict that Borussia Dortmund win this game 2-1 against PSG. And that is the end of my Champions League semi-final predictions for the first leg games, where I think Bayern Munich against Real Madrid will end in a 2-2 draw, and Borussia Dortmund will upset PSG, beating them 2-1. If you guys agree with my predictions, remember to leave a comment down below. But again, if you disagree with my predictions and you think maybe Real Madrid will win or maybe PSG will beat Borussia Dortmund, again, remember to leave your score predictions in the comments down below. If you guys want to see my Europa League prediction for the semi-final, that video will be out in a few days. And obviously, if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.